Good morning, everybody. We are back with a little shrimp for breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, so it's important to get it started right. I am going with the classic ghost shrimp breakfast since high school. A little bit of weed and a little bit of strong black coffee. Here we go. And of course, I've already pre-gamed a little bit, already had a cup. Already had one of these bad boys. The go-to packs 2. Um, so let's see. We are picking up where we left off for our girl out in England, confirmed, Cicely Ashford. She sent me these questions a bit ago, actually, and I kind of tagged them, and then she reminded me to answer them, and then I put the video up just yesterday. She didn't know it was going up, and it turned out she had a bad day, and the video really elevated her morale. So shout out to Cicely. Stick with it, right? As we all know, there's good and bad days, but you get the vision of what you want to do, you know what you love to do, and you stay on that path day after day. And the goal is that overall, you got more good days than bad days, and it works. If you know what you want to do and you stick to having fun doing it, you will have good days, better, more than bad days, right? Here we go. Oh, yeah, baby, baby. And also, just a little disclaimer, often when I listen back to myself, I'll say something that kind of doesn't make sense the way I said it, or I'll say something that even could be a little factually inaccurate. Like I was listening to myself talking about 80 to 100 hours a week. Now, I think I've been saying this a lot lately, and when I start to do the math, I really think it's more like, between 60 and 80 hours a week. So that's a lot different. So let's get that out of the way right up front. 100 hours a week. Now, I wouldn't say that I've never hit 100 hours a week at the desk working. I certainly have, but I would say on average throughout my career, pre-family, definitely 60 to 80 hours a week at the desk, drawing, promoting, website stuff, social media stuff, what have you, business related stuff. So for sure, if you are especially establishing yourself, a young artistic entrepreneur, expect, not even expect, it should be easy for you to spend 60 to 80 hours working on building your business, right? There's really nothing else I wanted to do because, I spent my whole kind of childhood and then teenagehood being told what to do, right? I have great parents, but I was a rowdy kid, and then you're not made for school, and my parents did the best they could, but they aren't creative people. They're mainstream people. They're in the box thinkers. They didn't know what to do with a rowdy, out of the box kid, right? ADHD to the max, always getting in trouble, very mischievous kid, wanting to get in trouble because I didn't want to sit there and be told what to do, right? So once I got to where I could do what I wanted to do, it was like, nah, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to being told what to do. And that's what I mean when I meant to say when I was talking yesterday, I said I never work for somebody, and then I said I work for this, I work for that. What I meant to say is I never work for somebody, I work with people, right? I work with people. People work with me. People hire me to do what I do because I'm a specialist. And I had that vision right off the bat. I had the vision that I wanted to really hone my own style, be a unique character, and offer something unique to the world. Personal mythology is the way we think about it. That's the way I think about it, right? We talk a lot about it in the Ghostshrimp Classic Workshop and the Magnum Opus Workshop. And I'm developing a new workshop, y'all, so stay tuned. The Creative Animal Workshop is coming soon. Nothing like a little bit of breakfast to get you going. All right. So, Cicely's next question is, how have your intentions of what you wanted to achieve in the industry evolved? That's a great question. So, like I said, when I started out, my goal was like, I want to pay my bills with drawing what I want to draw. At that point, my vision was like uh, comics and album covers, pretty much. I thought if I can pay my bills doing album covers for my friends, album covers for hip hop artists that I like, and I can do my own comics and get them published, right? That's kind of what I was doing at the time. And it felt very doable. Like I said, I was hustling around. I was taking trips to New York City, going to comic conventions. I was going to Small Press Expo in Maryland. I was going to Ape in San Francisco. I was going to the cons in New York, right? I would get a table. It was easier then. There wasn't the whole lottery thing. You could just kind of sign up for a table and get it. And I had my first book published, The Octopi in the Ocean, with Top Shelf. Like I did that during college, and then I submitted it to publishers, and Top Shelf published it. So I had that going for me. I was just hustling every which way. I knew that if I continued to, get my very personal work, my personal mythology down, and I kept, raising the technical ability. If I just practice, right? Practice makes progress. If I was just involved in the process, if I was prepared for the process, that the results would come over time, right? There is an idea that it takes about 5 years to get established in your art career, maybe in any career. I'd say that was about right. That's when I got the call to go out and work for Cartoon Network, 5 years in, right? So that's a good kind of anecdotal evidence of that. And I was going around, and I was, for those first 5 years, like I said, New York Times, my own comics, getting those published, uh, doing the editorial stuff, going around, doing the working with different businesses in the area, going to the comic conventions, selling merch, right, making merch, selling merch, which used to be again much harder back in the day. This is all print on demand stuff, high quality now. And before, you had to do a small batch order of silk screen stuff and try to guess what sizes and colors and all this stuff. It was like madness, and you do it, but it was so labor intensive, right? You had to work so hard back in the day, right? Uphill both ways, and a bowl of soup was a nickel, right? It was those kind of vibes. But luckily, I came out in the dawn of social media. Right now, we're on the dawn of digital ownership with crypto, so that's everybody's going to be able to leverage that coming into their careers now, and the smart people already are. That's the next wave of, right? We had digital information that came along, and now we got digital ownership coming along, right? The next obvious iteration. So I'm going around, I'm doing all this stuff. I would go to different hip hop shows, New York, West Coast. I would take trips to hang with homies, on the East and West Coast, and I would go to shows that I liked, and I would show up early, and I would have everywhere I went all the time. I had a backpack with a portfolio in it, like a 3-ring binder with my best pieces printed out, postcards in my backpack, always telling people what I did, just hustling. Like, if you're gonna be an independent artist, you have to be a business entrepreneur, right? There's no two ways about it. And if you're shy about it, get over it, right? You have to be aggressive with your business, right? And now more than ever, because it's easier than ever to get out there, but it's harder than ever to be seen, right? You can go to this place and that place, and upload here and upload there, make a profile here, make a profile there. That didn't exist. There was only websites when we started out, which was cool because people came to your website, but how do they find it, right? So you had to be your own media, right? You had to go out there and create content, and I knew right off the bat that I wanted the Ghostshrimp persona. I knew right off the bat I wanted something that was mysterious and intriguing, not just creating that in my work, but creating that with my persona, like a Salvador Dali character, like a larger than life character where you look at their art and you're like, oh shit, this is cool art. And then you go, oh, you look at who they are and you're like, oh, who the fuck is this, right? With the code names like G.I. Joe, like rappers, like graffiti artists. And so my expectations were just to hustle and make like funky, weird, great art, like the people that inspired me to make art, and pay the bills with it. You know, that was really it. But once I went out and was, you know, had the opportunity to create the world for Adventure Time and was so challenged by it. Like it you know, I thought in the beginning there was absolutely no way I'm going to be able to pull this off. It's like it's so outside of my skill set. Um you know, the pace is so, you know, it just goes all the time. You're in the middle of a machine when you're working at, that's the peak of, like, you know, the art industry is the entertainment industry, the film industry, the animation industry. It's just an absolute grind, you know. It's cliche for people to be burnt out all the time. And I knew going in that I didn't want to make a career as an animator, because otherwise I would have like pursued that right off the bat. But I quickly realized, like, yeah, this is not like my pace. This is not like conducive to true creative exploration, right? A week is like, you know, actually in that time, like about a week was about as most time I spent on like an individual piece, or like, you know, I would do comics that were longer form than that and stuff like that. And I guess you could liken the stuff I was doing in the animation industry closely to comics, you know, kind of like world building and storytelling and that kind of thing. But once I got there and once I was able to pull it off, I was really amazed. I was like, holy shit, if I can come in here as a complete novice and I can design the world for a show on Cartoon Network and it can become the biggest show in the world at that time for cartoons, and it can be at a pivotal point in Cartoon Network history when I walk in and they're talking about it all shutting down. And of course now it has, right? We postponed the inevitable, right? Everything comes to an end, and there was almost an end of Cartoon Network right when I got there. It was changing over. They were getting into that Cartoon Network reality stuff. If y'all remember that, it was just really weird. And there's always a lot of cynicism out there, but there was a lot of cynicism going around. Like, this is the last gasp and all that stuff. But the great thing about Adventure Time was the crew was fresh, right? The crew was a lot of people that got brought in from outside the industry. Of course, there was industry people working on it, and it was the right mix. But it was the right mix of artistic visionaries, right? You go down the list of all the people that worked on the show. I always list the people that I was closest to. But you know, everybody of that original run, once it got settled, right? When I first got on, everybody was being fired and hired and fired and reshuffled and arguing, and it was a madness. And I was like, oh, I was like, this is what working in the animation industry is like. But it actually is. It is madness, you know. And but once I got there and I survived it, I went through the gauntlet of the first year of like getting on Flapjack, fired on Flapjack, getting on Adventure Time, watching everybody get fired on Adventure Time, you know, being scared to death of being fired all the time on Adventure Time, and then just like digging as deep as I possibly could, digging to the core of my persona of like, I am not going to like fail at this. Like, this is a dream job and I need to capitalize on this, right? So once I conquered that, you know, did the 4 seasons, did the you know, for people that don't know, because I saw some other questions of like, what did you do? Did you have an influence on the show? And like, so basically I was hired to develop the world for the show from scratch, from basically scratch. There was some biz dev from Adam Muto, some amazing visual development, and there's some failed attempts at other people to design the world, and you know, we're talking about it, but you know, I knew what I wanted it to be. Like I said, I knew what I wanted it to be, and so I designed the, you know, the even my tests for the show were the treehouse, the Candy Kingdom, and the Candy Kingdom test that I did for the show ended up being the actual Candy Kingdom that you see on screen. It got digitally inked by someone else and put up there, and and that was it. But yeah, I designed the treehouse, I designed the Ice Kingdom, I designed, you know, Tree Trunk's house, Marceline's house, everything, all, you know, Lumpy Space, all the original places, the original map, everything. And then I was the head background designer for the first 4 seasons of the show with no experience. I mean, the fact that I just got invited in, you know, stumbled in, fell on my face, got up, and walked into, you know, this huge opportunity, and then was able to pull it off, and then left. Right, I was in. I got the bag and I went and I left. Right, it's like I was in Hollywood for 3 years, and I accomplished what some people spend their entire career there and don't accomplish. Like, not to knock anybody, but just like it's insane. Like, it still feels like a dream when I think back and I go like, did that really happen? Like, I went out there and I like made a fool of myself, got embarrassed, and then like absolutely redeemed myself and became like this legendary character out there of like, came in, designed the world for Adventure Time, you know, is very like elusive, working from home, coming in, you know, causing a ruckus. Like, my personality is loud. I have an all caps personality. You know, I'm like, just like, you know, if you've heard the podcast, you've heard some of the stories of just like people's impressions of me and stuff like that. Like, a lot of times people are like, you know, who the fuck is this asshole, right? I just can't help myself. I'm like a loud, rowdy kid. I'm a happy-go-lucky, just like, you know? So after I pulled that off, it was like, what can't I do? You know, I was like, wow, like, if I can come in here and do this and get received like this and have and have, when my goal from day one, from before I started my career, was to do the art, make the art that I wanted to make, and inspire other people to make the art they want to make, right? It's been on my website from day one. That was always the goal. I knew that very clearly. Like, sit down at the beginning of your career and figure out what you really want to do. Like, you know, like, kids know what they want to do, right? People don't need to be told what to do. People are told what to do and they forget how to think for themselves. If you look around, very few people actually think for themselves, and very few people are actually open-minded in a way that they take in new ideas and adjust accordingly, right? Kids do that. You know, teenagers do that amongst their peer group. You know, adults start to do that. You know, adults can do that a little bit amongst their peer group early on, but it very quickly, their brain like calcifies, and it just like, they're like, this is reality, this is what I do now, and this is the only thing, and like, nobody thinks for themselves anymore, and nobody's like open-minded to like evolving. And that's you know, I think being a creative person is great, because at your core, at your absolute core, you love to evolve, you love to create, you love to explore, right? Like, we're not afraid to get lost, right? You have to be kind of excited to get lost if you really want to be creative, because you're going into new territory. You're saying, everybody else is going over here, I see all these pathways cut in the forest, and then here I see this dense, dark forest, and I have no idea what's in there, and that's what's calling to me. That's a true creative artist, right? Answering that call over and over and over. And even when you achieve it and you've made your own civilization, then you look over into the darkness again and you go like, there's more darkness over there. Let's fucking go, right? That's where I'm at. Like, I never stop evolving, right? So once I got there and I saw that, I was like, what can't I do? You know, like, now the sky is truly the limit. Like, I was like, I could be one of the best artists in the world, right? And like, what does that even mean? But like, it had never dawned on me before. I never really thought like, I never thought I'm going to go work for other people, right? Like I said, my mission was to not work for other people. And, you know, when I went out to Cartoon Network, it was still on my own terms. I'm working with them. Like, there was never a point where I was like, I don't want to do this, right? Even with the storyboarding, I was like, okay, like, I think this could be fun. Let's try it. And like, turned out not to be a good fit, turned out not to be fun. And, you know, they fired me, right? They fired me because I kept doing what I wanted to do. They fired me because I wasn't a good personal fit, right? Like, it wasn't a fit, right? One of the few times that it wasn't a fit in my whole career, right? But because Adventure Time worked with me and they let me do my thing, I was able to expand into that space and figure it out, right? I was the guy for that job. I was the right person at the right place at the right time. So once that happened, I was like, now the sky is the fucking limit. Like, as Michael Jordan would say, the ceiling is the roof, right? So there was now I was like, at first I was like, there's nothing's gonna stop me. But now I was like, oh fuck. Now there's like really nothing's gonna stop me. Cause like this tried to stop me and it didn't, right? Like you're gonna face challenges in your life. And like we said, success and failure, two sides of the same coin. It's all money in the bank. It's all experience. The thing you need as an artist is just experience, right? Get out there. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to look like a fool. Most people don't even follow their dreams because they're afraid of looking like a fool. Really think about it. Think about that. Look around you, talk to people about it. That's the most common denominator. Most people do not follow their dreams, don't even dare to think about their dreams as an adult because they're afraid of what other people would say, right? Because every step along the way for me, people doubted me, even my loved ones, even my family. When I quit Adventure Time and moved here, bought land in rural Vermont, and moved to a place where we don't know anybody, with my new wife, with my new baby, you know, leaving my most secure job I've ever had. You know, if you guys know this story from episode 10 of the Ghostshrimp Friends podcast. You know, really unorthodox, really irrational, really counter-logical, right? But it's intuitional. And when people say, you know, people always say follow your intuition. People always say, you know, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? But they never actually want you to do it, and they never ever teach you to do it, right? So, you know, once I reached that point, I really was like, the sky's the limit. You know, I know exactly what I want to do. Move back here and you know, build the house from scratch. You know, come here, nothing but woods, with a chainsaw, cutting down the woods. You know, my idea was, I want to continue. Now my dream of going out to LA. These are the Stone Morning Talks. My dream of going out to LA, the only reason I went there in the first place was so I could buy this property. I didn't know where the property was going to be. I knew it was going to be in northern New England, in rural New England, where I grew up. And where my family's from. You know, we came on the Mayflower. We've been in these forests for 400 years. So this is my personal mythology here, right? So come here and create my whole life. I've just created the world of Adventure Time from scratch, right? I built my first little cabin in the woods in New Hampshire, with living in a fort with my dog. Destiny. I'm activating that destiny. It calls me out to LA. I design the world for Adventure Time. My destiny grows even more, right? The greater the challenge, the greater the destiny. I could walk away, but I didn't. You know, I overcome a huge challenge, physically, mentally, everything, right? Calling on all my past challenges when I broke my feet when I was 16, told I was never going to walk again, said, fuck that, overcame that challenge, learned that I could do that, used that there, came here, bit off way more than we could chew, you know, drowning forever in all the plans we had here, but, you know, but keep swimming, treading water, you know, finally get above board, you know, living this dream life, absolute dream life, you know, and fulfilling this vision that I had right out the gate of, if I truly want to be a creative artist, if I truly want to be a legend, if I'm truly a creative animal in an infinite universe, and an infinite animal in a creative universe, I need to pursue a unique life. I need to pursue a creative life. I need to make my entire life as creative as I possibly can if I want my work to reflect that, right? If I live and think and do everything everybody else does, how is my work going to be unique and different? It's not, right? So that is a long answer to say that my expectations changed tremendously. I was following a track, and I've always been following the same track, just like you're always yourself. But you can surprise yourself. Just like when you're exploring in a drawing, you surprise yourself. You're looking for the surprises. Anything is possible in a drawing. And you're exploring, you know the territory that you've already found, you know what you can already do, but you try to look a little bit past that, right? Where's the darkness in your exploration? You go past that, and then you start to make those exciting discoveries, and you do the same thing in life, right? It's the same thing. Always trying to dissolve the barrier between the reality and the imagination, right? Because they're all the same thing. Right? And here was where I really was put to the test of, can I be an absolute creative animal and create my entire life from scratch, right? And we created the secret society of Ghost Scouts here. And I continued on my freelance illustration career, and I continued to freelance on Adventure Time, and I continue to freelance for all the studios now. Right now, I pulled all the animation world, all the studio. In those short 3 years, I made a big enough name for myself where now all the studios come to me to get this unique product, right? There's only one place to get Ghostshrimp, and it's Ghostshrimp. So the unorthodox, the strange, this odd vision that nobody could understand in the beginning. Even my dad was like, "You could make more money as a graphic designer." I was like, "Sure I could, but that's not fun, Dad. I'm not going to do it." Right? Didn't understand it. People don't have to understand. Only you have to understand. You have to have the self-confidence to understand, to just, you have to have the self-confidence to keep following your vision, right? Develop your vision and have the self-confidence to keep going on it, right? So, and if you do that, your dream life will keep opening up, right? I tell people, take the straightest path to your dream life, because once you get there, you're going to open up the next level of the dream, right? And then once you get there, you're going to open up the next level of the dream. It never stops, right? There are infinite levels of dream life, infinite directions you can go, right? And each immense challenge that you overcome gives you power, right? It raises your levels, right? Your hit points, your defense, your everything, right? Your confidence, your sense of the universe, right? It puts you deeper in touch with that cosmic creativity out there that is the real goal of every artist to connect with and to vibe with and to get on that path, right? So yeah, that's, I don't consider myself an industrial artist, right? I work in all genres of art. I don't work for the art industry. I work with them. I don't work for, I don't work for the illustration industry. I work with the illustration industry. I'm a truly independent artist, right? There's never a time where I run out of ideas, because I sit there and I draw in the sketchbook all the time and it's just my brain's working overtime, right? There's only a lack of time in which to execute everything, right? Have your inspirations for your work in the past and present stayed the same? If so, what were they and how did they evolve with your work? I don't know. My inspirations are pretty much the same. My inspirations are just life. Like, I grew up in rural Western Massachusetts, in Shutesbury, New Hampshire. See, there we go with the inaccuracies. Sometimes I catch them, sometimes I don't. In Shutesbury, Massachusetts, 29 Baker Road was where I grew up. 259-1261 was my childhood phone number. 01072, I believe, was my childhood zip code. And it was a little dirt road. It was across the street from a hippie commune. And we just ran around in the woods, getting up to no good, building forts, breaking shit, sneaking around, climbing trees, swimming in ponds, breaking into abandoned fucking shacks, like whatever we could do, having fun out there, looking for weird things, and encountering, spooky anomalies in the forest. And that's my inspiration. I have a recurring dream landscape. I have recurring dreams my whole life of that forest, of weird dream interpretations of everything we did there. And I inherited my older brother's room in the basement when he left, and my little brother needed a room. And there was a sliding glass door that looked out into the forest, and I would just like lay in bed and look out there, and just like the dark, this is where that dark forest comes in, exploring that dark forest, right? Literally my dreams were just about exploring that dark forest, and like Borges-esque circular pathways. And there was a monk's cave out there. It was called the Monk's Cave. It was like an indigenous, pre-indigenous structure, human-made structure, this like burial chamber that is like the totem of my creativity. told not to go in there, we would crawl through there, get in there, and the energy was phenomenal, you know, and I think it charged me up. And I think, you know, I mean, you know, I interacted with otherworldly entities in those woods. You know, I encountered the uncanny in those woods, and that is really the basis of everything that I do. You know, now everything else that I encounter is mixed in there, right? And that's where it becomes fun. I mean, I think my the ethos the ethos of my work is really exploring the intersection between childhood and adulthood, right? Like, you know, where they overlap, where kids are doing adult things and adults are doing kid things. You know, Lord of the Flies is really like, that is in a nutshell like what I, you know, that's where like the core of humanity lies. And like, you know, that's what I love exploring, and but having fun with it. And you know, kids smoking cigarettes and kids murdering each other, and adults being these mysterious giant creatures in the world that have, you know, long given up their dreams and lost touch with that, you know, the ability to imagine beyond what other people are telling you, right? I've never lost that. I'm very childlike and still very happy go lucky, and believe in everything, and truly believe everything is possible and anything is possible. There's nothing that I don't believe is possible, right? I know that nothing is solid and real and true, and I know everything is ethereal and evolving and changing, right? I know that because I experience it through my work, right? I create realities at the desk, right? I create realities here in the forest. I've been, you know, there's been artists come here from all over the world and shared in this experience and shared in this otherworldly time slipping, time travel, you know, creative explorations that we do here. You know, we're going to continue that with Ghost Fest again this year, with art residencies here in the cabin this year. Like, create your own reality. You have the physical, historical tools in your DNA. Think about how far humanity has come from, you know, living in caves to the world that we've created. Human beings have the amazing ability to create, the amazing tools to create, the amazing ability to imagine something that isn't in the physical world around us yet, that hasn't been made before by humans, and to manifest that into existence, and to have it, to give it to everybody, and to have it go, right? Like, there is no real ownership, right? We have like, I own this land and I own this intellectual property and all this, but truly, once something is out there, it's everybody's, and that's the beauty of it. And it's shared, and it expands, right? As soon as my work went up as the World of Adventure Time, I gave it away to the world, and, you know, with love. Like, I love it when I see people, you know, drawing like me, copying my style, even like bootleg merchandise. I'm like, wow, like, people are bootlegging my stuff. Like, how cool is that, right? To me, it's so silly to get mad about that, right? Like, you know, the nature of the universe is cooperation, right? Everything in nature is a web of interconnectedness. You know, everything is everything gives and takes from one another, right? And that's the continuum that we are